स्वयंभुव कया भृत्या वर्तितं ते परं वयः कथं चेदम् उदश्राक्षिः काले प्राप्ते कलेवरम् स्वयंभुव कया भृत्या वर्तितं ते परं वयः कथं चेदम् उदश्राक्षिः काले प्राप्ते कलेवरम् स्वयंभुव कया भृत्या वर्तितं ते कया कथं चेदमुदश्राक्षि काले प्राप्ते कलेवरम् Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So they have a very interesting topic today. It's called the spiritual inquisitiveness. And we are seeing this as a conversation which is happening between two exalted personalities. And how much we have to learn from this two wonderful people's conversation that we are hearing. We're fortunate. Today's verse spoken by Vedavyas is asking Swayam Bhuva Kaya Vritya Vartitam Te Param Vayaha Katham Chedam Udashrakshi Kale Prapte Kalevaram. Kaya Vritya. Kaya by what? Swayam Bhuva, actually, we know this like Vasudev, the son of Vasudev is Vasudev. Vayasaki, the son of Vedavyas. Swayambhuva is the son of Swayambhuva or son of Brahma, which is Narada Muni. So, Narada Muni, Swayambhuva Kaya Vritya. How did you spend your time? How did you pass your life? Swayambhuva Kaya Vritya Vartitam Te Param Vayaha. Vartitam is spent. How do you spend your time? Param, the word param is initiation, as we saw in the last verse, where the word was explicitly not used, but Vijnana Deshtrabhistava. Vijnana Adeshashtrabhi Tava. That word, that whole thing, that whole phrase was translated by Prabhupada in the purport as initiation. So here, but it is directly, Prabhupada is writing via as initiation. Param as initiation. So, O son of Brahma, how did you pass your life after initiation? And how did you attain this body? Katham prapte kalevaram. How did you attain this body? Kalevaram is body. Prapte, how did you attain? Katham, how? Having quit your old one in due course. Udashrakshi kale. Udashrakshi is to quit. Kale, you quit your old body. And how did you get this new body? And 2 lines forward. So, there is always difficult when you have such purport, but also we need to appreciate Prabhupada's brilliance of capturing the essence and giving it in the 2 lines. So here Prabhupada is writing, Narada Muni in his previous life was just an ordinary maidservant son. How he became so perfectly transformed into the spiritual body of eternal life, bliss and knowledge is certainly important. And Vyasadeva desired him to disclose the facts for everyone's satisfaction. I just put some highlights on few of the words. So the translation is telling, O son of Brahma, how did you pass your life after initiation? And how did you attain this body having quit your old one in due course? Fact is, each one of us have to quit our body. No one is exception. No one is exempt from that. Jatasya hi dhruva mrityur dhruva mrita jatasya cha. So we will quit. And quitting is not a, the word is that's like quitting. You don't really want to give up, but you are forced. Kala, the force of time, it pushes us. It pushes us to go forward, accept old body, which nobody likes, and then quit the body one day. So how did you quit your, having quit your old one, how did you get your new body? And in the purport, Prabhupada is writing that, look at the situation of Narada Muni. He was just the son of an ordinary maid servant. How he became so perfectly transformed. Transformation doesn't mean external changes. Transformation happens within. How he became so perfectly transformed into the spiritual body of eternal life, bliss and knowledge is certainly important. Before we go and delve a little more, actually there is a verse which comes towards the end of this first canto, 6th chapter. Little later when we go, this chapter it will come. Namani anantasya hatatripah pathan. 1.6.26. Namani anantasya hatatripah pathan. Guhyani bhadrani kritani jasmaran. In that verse, 1.6.26 purport, the first line Prabhupada is saying, the life of a sincere devotee of the Lord is thus explained in nutshell by Narada Muni, by his personal example. So this is the life of a perfect, the life of a sincere devotee. People often ask, how do we become sincere? What are the symptoms of a person who is sincere? This is the example. Narada Muni's life is an example of a devotee who is sincere. The life of a sincere devotee of the Lord is thus explained in a nutshell by Narada Muni. So, sometimes we may curse our circumstances, our situation, our the way we have got our body or the position that we are in. We may find so many faults in that, so many flaws in that. But here is an example of a person who is just born to an ordinary maid servant and he got transformed. How did it happen? Sincerity. This is the Prabhupada writing. This is the life of a sincere devotee of the Lord is thus explained in nutshell. The sincere devotee. So let us go a little further. Yesterday, Prabhu was trying to say that we are still in the New Year mode because people are still wishing. Occasionally you get some messages or calls wishing you a belated Happy New Year. And it continues. I don't know how long it continues, but it continues. Some people who wake up now this week probably, is probably the last week, and Monday onwards, people hopefully will go back to their work and will stop wishing each other. Maybe they'll again wish for one more week. But they keep wishing Happy New Year. And not just this month, January in particular. Every year in January, we wish each other Happy New Year. The session that we had on the eve of New Year, we were thinking, what is happiness? Decoding happiness and seeing how it's a big trap and illusion of Maya, which makes us believe that there is happiness in this material world. Very strongly make us believe, and we endeavor hard. Today, I want to talk about the word new. Okay, is there really anything new? Actually, nothing in this world is new. Every single day, when the day is passing by, we are getting old. Our bodies are becoming older. Even material item also has an expiry date. anything that is material will come to an end. It's a matter of time. Everything is becoming old, and where is the question of new? But still people wish each other Happy New Year. Actually, the newness in life can only come if, okay, newness can only come, hold on to that, how newness will come. I'll not give that answer. I want you to think something from Bhagavad Gita. If you know any verse where Krishna says that the whole life, whole existence is coming because of him. Ekam seno sthito jagat, okay? Vishtabhyam idam kritsnam ekam seno sthito jagat. That he talks about his opulence and he says, yeah, the whole world is what you, just by my single listing fragment, the whole world is doing. Okay, what else?
Matta sarvam pravartate.
Matta sarvam pravartate. Aham sarvasya prabhavo.
Yes, Prabhu. Aham sarvasya Prabhu, Matta sarvam pravartate.
Matta sarvam pravartate. From me comes the both in the manifested and unmanifested words. Iti matvam bhajante mam budava avasamanvita. Can you say? Same verse. Where is it mentioned that Krishna sustains all the lives? Bharta Bhukta Maheshwar. Bhukta Aramya Kendra Prasanna. What is the starting line of that? Mattah parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai protam idam sarvam sutre maniganaya. Krishna is sustaining. In that same 7th chapter, there is another verse which comes, which is called Punyo Gandha Prathivyam cha Tejas Chasmi Vibhavaso Jivanam Sarvabhuteshu Tapaschasmi Tapasvishu. Punya Gandha Prathivyam cha, the fragrance which comes out of Prithivi, that's Krishna. Tejam Chasmi Vibhavaso, the sunshine and the moonshine is also Krishna. And then he says, Jivanam Sarvabhuteshu Tapaschasmi Tapasvishu. The Jivanam Sarvabhuteshu. I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat in fire, I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penance of all ascetics. I am the life of all that lives. Actually, without Krishna, there is no existence of ours. I am the life of all that lives, including, forget about if you are not able to understand this. Krishna says in 15th chapter, Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritaha Pranapana Samayuktaha Pachami Annam Chaturvedham. We don't know what all things we put it in our belly. Right? Whatever comes in whichever form, shape, thickness, hardness, whatever liquid, we put it in our belly, but we don't bother how this gets digested. Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva. Krishna says, I am Vaishwanaro. I am that fire of digestion. Praninam Dehamashita. Prana Pana Samayukta. Pachami Annam Chaturvitham. 4 kinds of food that we are putting it. It gets digested because I am the fire of digestion. So, but unfortunately, living entities do not understand the existence of Lord because of the covering potency of Maya. Avaranatmika Sakti. We don't understand. The Lord who's so pivotal, who's there in every aspect of our life, is because of him we are there. Because of his presence, we are having our conditioned living and we are having our conditioned existence in this material world, yet we can never figure it out. So that is why the newness in life can only come, if we meet a pure devotee spiritual master. When we meet a pure devotee spiritual master, they connect us to the Supreme Lord. Other than that, actually, there is nothing new in this material world. It is only by that Kripa Sakti, the potency of their causeless mercy, that one gets connected to the Supreme Lord. One of the things which I have heard by many disciples of Srila Prabhupada when they recall their experiences with Prabhupada, they say that Prabhupada, when you came in our lives, we understood the existence of God. Otherwise, we were thinking God doesn't exist, God is dead, there is no need of God in our life. We were completely lost. We had no idea. This is the greatest contribution of a sadhu. When we interact with a sadhu, our faith that Lord is there, I'm not alone in this world. He's sitting, he's there right next to me, and I have a connection with him. I don't need to depend on any of these material things. This important thing gets established only by the mercy of a pure devotee, sadhu. Other than that, if you take, for example, any rich, powerful man in this material world, do you think he'll be free from fear, anxieties? Nobody can be free from fear and anxieties if they're not connected to the Lord. I mean, if they have their own material conception of life and they think by their own endeavor they'll be able to protect, they can never be fearless because they have not developed that faith to depend on the Lord. That Lord is present. Even though, Bhagavad Gita is telling, Bhagavatam is telling, this knowledge, that's why Divyagyan Hriday Prakasito, when this knowledge is given, this by the mercy of the pure devotee spiritual master, it manifests in our heart. Our faith and conviction in this, it continues and grows. We can never repay the debt of our spiritual master. There is one conversation where Prabhupada is talking to his disciples and he's telling that we don't know where we were before our birth. Our parents brought us to this place, which is Dukkhalaya. And living entities in every life, in every type of body that he has got parents. There are father and mother. But you don't get spiritual master in every life. And spiritual master takes you from this Dukkhalayam to your original constitutional position. Takes you out of this Dukkhalayam. That is why a spiritual master's position is far, far superior than father and mother. Father and mother gives us body to come to this material world, but spiritual master takes away our this conditional, miserable, painful existence and gives us the eternal position in the spiritual world. So his position cannot be. That is why Bhagavatam says that when we meet a pure devotee spiritual master, there is a revolution which happens in our lives. We can think, we can look back in our own lives, and we can see people who have not come in touch with a pure devotee. The difference is that revolution. Tadbhag visargo janatag viplavo yasmin pratishlokam avadhavati api namani anantasya yasho ankitani yat shunvanti gayanti grinanti sadhava. In Bhagavatam's introduction, anywhere if you open it, this verse comes. Prabhupada has selected this verse. Tadbhag visargo janatagha viplavo. Agha viplavo, janatagha viplavo. Sinful lives of misdirected civilization. There is no way you can transform. It's very difficult. It's a very deep-rooted conditioning. Very strong. But this words, Tadbhag visargo janatagha viplavo, it can bring revolution in the sinful lives of misdirected civilization. These moments when somebody comes in touch with pure devotee are very, very special, very historical. That is why Narada Muni is being inquired by Vyasadeva. What did you do after initiation? Vasanam Brahma, how did you pass your life after initiation? Because initiation is not just a simple, episode in our life. Like we have so many episodes. We started going to school, college, marriage, first job, like that, first house, first car, initiation, first initiation, second initiation, not like that. Initiation is a vow. Initiation is a commitment. Initiation is a sankalpa, is a determination. is a determination to follow the instructions of the spiritual master, whose only goal in life is to free us from this mire of conditioning life. And that is possible if we commit and follow that vow throughout our life. So that is why Vyasadeva is inquiring, "O son of Brahma, how did you pass your life after initiation? What did you do?" Mind you, I told this is the life of a sincere devotee. And how did you attain this body, having quit your old one in due course? If we don't do that, which most people in this life, they are not aware of meeting a pure devotee spiritual master, taking to this process of initiation, their life actually goes in very different way. That is why in Bhagavatam it is mentioned, Tulayama lavenapi nasvargam na punarbhavam bhagavat sangi sangasya matyanam ki mutasisha. Tulayama lavenapi, a moment's association. Tulayama lavenapi nasvargam na punarbhavam bhagavat sangi sangasya matyanam ki mutasisha. It is not even compared to getting a position in Swargam. Na Swargam, na Punarbhavam. Bhagavat Sangi Sangasya Martyanam ki mutasisa. What to talk about, Martyanam, people who are, in this material world, their pleasure or their accumulation. What is it? Swarga also is not comparable. Value of a moment's association with the devotee of the Lord cannot even be compared to that. Attainment of heavenly planets or liberation from matter. What to speak of worldly benedictions in the form of material prosperity, which are for those who are meant for death. Interestingly, this verse in Bhagavatam appears twice. This is the unique reputation of appearing in Bhagavatam twice. Do you know this? Tulayama lavhenapi na swargam na punarbhavam bhagavat sangi sangasya martyanam ki mutasisa. So, few days back when I was talking about the regulative principles of devotional life given by Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion. Out of those 64 regulative principles, he says there are 5 which are important, and of the 5, the first one is Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha is the most important thing which can check, which can help, which can bring us back to our true position of life. It can recalibrate. Otherwise, we get always upset. We get distracted. But Sadhu Sangha is, that's why all the 64, out of those 64, those remaining essence of 59 is captured in this 5. Sadhu Sangha, Madhav. Sadhu Sangha, you were there, no? Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan. Mathura was also you told. You can't say that. 2 more. You don't know.
Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam?
Yes. Bhagavad Shravan and Srimurtira Shraddhaya Sevana. These 5 things are critical, crucial. It may not come in that 4 vows that we take at the time of initiation, or it may not even, we don't take a vow about that, but these 5 are highlighted. These are Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavad Shravan, Mathura Vas, and Srimurtira Shraddhaya Sevana. These 5, every one of us have to do if we really want to keep ourselves spiritually healthy, spiritually protected. So that is why Tulayam Lavenapi Naswargam na Punarbhavam Bhagavat Sangi Sangasya Matyanam ki mutasisa. What is the position of a sadhu? What is it that he has? Why Sadhu Sangha is so important? Sadhu, the real position of a sadhu is his core, that strong faith that he has on the Lord. He's carrying the Lord in his heart. This is what he can give to another person. This is what makes a person fearless. This is what makes a person live life without anxieties. All the devotees of the Lord, irrespective of their material position, irrespective of their whatever was going on in their life, they were carefree because they knew that they are in touch with the Lord. And this can come by the mercy of a pure devotee, like it happened in the case of Mrigari the hunter. Mrigari the hunter was doing all kinds of sinful activities, but he came in touch with Narada Muni. And Narada Muni told, don't worry about your livelihood. I will give you whatever your necessities. These words of Narada Muni, because he has that firm faith and conviction on the protection of the Lord, gets carried to a condition living entity like Mrigari, like all of us. But what makes all the difference is that simple faith that Mrigari had on the words of spiritual master. If we lack that simple faith, that simplicity, if that simplicity is not there, it doesn't allow us to follow the words of spiritual master. We will not, complications, duplicitous, these kind of things are big hindrances in advancing in spiritual. So the first thing that we need to develop is that simplicity in heart. And that simplicity in heart, when it is there, then the flow is very direct, it's strong. It immediately comes. And when it comes, it brings revolution. That's what happened to hippies. You know, what kind of austerity is there to go through? Western bodies, they came to India, they were in some kind of environment like Mayapur or Vrindavan, where there's extreme cold, winter, the place of residence were not ready, temples were under constructions, dealing with Indians. It's all very, very austere things. But why did they do this? Because they were getting new life by being in presence of Srila Prabhupada. They didn't mind that austerity. Prabhupada can give, can recharge that battery. They even couldn't understand what it is, but their goal of life was, how can I please Srila Prabhupada? How can I? That simplicity, when with that mind, with that intention, when somebody comes, then Krishna does everything. Because we're trying to follow the instructions of a pure devotee spiritual master, the life gets transformed. This is what happened to Narada Muni. He followed the instructions of those Bhakti Vedantists very sincerely. That's how the life got transformed. If somebody doesn't get that simplicity, then what happens is he gets stuck in this material world. Like I say always, when you are walking and when you are not even bothering, you don't see that your shadow is very next to you. Nobody sees whether my shadow is there or not, or wherever it is. Maybe except for Hari, who sees where is the Tulsi Mari's shadow well in the morning time. Otherwise, we are not bothered about our shadow in the morning, morning, day, whatever. But the shadow is right next to us. Like that, the Maya is right next to us, always. Always. 24/7, Maya is there. We don't know, we don't realize its presence, like the shadow which is there. And that's why, if you see this words, this one things which Prabhupada, being a pure devotee of spiritual master, whatever he has picked up. So in the tagline of Back to Godhead is Krishna Surya Sama, Maya Hoy Andhakar, Jahan Krishna Nahi Tar Maya Radhikar. Krishna Surya Sama. If Krishna is there, there is no question of having Maya. But if Krishna is not there, Maya ra Adhikar. What is the meaning of Adhikar? Huh?
Control.
What is it?
Control.
Control, yes. So imagine you built a house, your house 207 Spring Street. And I go and say, that's my house. I take proprietorship, controlship of that. Then you say, how can you do that? I can go and say that only if I have got some other strength. I've got, support from police. I've got some other politicians. Then I'll come and sit there, or gundas. What you'll do? Mera ghar hai. Maya ra adhikar. So Maya also has many allies, many friends. And those friends are our mind and senses and all. And they're, Maya captures them. And after having captured, Maya ra adhikar. So conditioned living entity is forgetful of his constitutional position. That's why Krishna Surya Sama. And this Krishna can be given by a pure devotee spiritual master. Pure devotee spiritual master gives this Krishna to us. Krishna se tumhara, Krishna dite para. In one of the songs, Narottam Das Thakur, was it Bhakti Vinod Thakur probably. He says, Krishnera samsara kari chhadi anachar. Krishnera samsara kari chhadi anachar. Jive daya nama ruchi sarva dharma sar. Actually, in this false material world, where we are thinking or we are scared, what will happen to my children? What will happen to my son? What will happen to my wife, daughter, husband? And we are thinking constantly, who's going to take care? Because we don't have faith that nothing belongs to us. I am Krishna's, my family members are also Krishna's. If a small insect can be taken care by the Lord, and a big elephant also can be taken care by the Lord, why can't I be saved? Why can't I be protected? Prabhupada, in one of the classes I was seeing, it's a conversation with his disciples in Mayapur, and he was seeing one snake, which, when the monsoon season is gone, it is hiding itself in some sand. It's a small water snake kind of a thing, but it is hiding, it is keeping itself alive. So Prabhupada is saying that if a snake like this knows how to survive, who's giving that intelligence? How is it coming? Where is it coming from? There's no water. If it is protecting himself, why can't we be protected? Why we have to be so worried? So that is why Krishnera samsara. Do a samsara. Nobody is saying give up your family life or material relationship, which is difficult. Somebody who's already in a grihastha life. But Krishnera samsara, bring Krishna in the center of your life. Chhadi anachara, and give up all those anacharas. Without anachara, Krishnera samsara kari chhadi anachara. Jive daya, have compassion on the other living entities. Namaruchi. The Namaruchi, what is the word exactly? Krishnera samsara kari chhadi anachara. Krishna Nam. Jive daya, Krishna Nam, Sarva Dharma Sar. Krishna Nam. So taking the names of the Lord. Yesterday we were seeing that how we can chant offenselessly, how we can chant attentively, how we can lock our attention into that. That is the goal of life. That is how we will be saved. So this is a historic moment, as I was mentioning. Sometimes we don't realize it, but like in the case of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he met his spiritual master, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, who was living in some graveyards or in some abandoned places like toilets. And if you read the biography of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, he was when a dead body is burnt, it is usually wrapped in some they call it in Bengali kantha or some like a mat or something. That is not burnt. That is just left like that. The dead body is burnt. They wrap the dead body with that. They bring it to the graveyard, but that is not burnt because it is inauspicious. He used to pick up those things. It is actually done by very low class people. They pick it up. But Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj used to do that so that nobody bothers him. And he was busy. He'll use that. He didn't have even a japamala. He was using a cloth with some knots, and he was chanting so that, he just didn't want to get into this material world, and he didn't have any disciple. Rest all people who were coming to him, they had all material goals and aspirations. But when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur came, he realized that this is the pure devotee who can bring a revolution. And he accepted him as a spiritual master, despite all his external, whatever, you can see that, what kind of a life, how, in what conditions he was living. But yet Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very firm. This is how a conditioned living entity, by some will of providence, Brahmand Brahmite Kon Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasad Paye Bhakti Lata Beach. That Bhakti Lata Beach comes from a pure devotee spiritual master. And if we are careful, if our heart is simple, not complicated, not duplicitous, And if you really, if a seed has to fructify and a sapling has to come, then the sand has to be soft. It cannot be very complicated and this thing. Then the Bhaktilata will not grow. Bhaktilata grows. In one of the instructions which Kapila Dev gives to his mother, these instructions are very powerful instructions, and it is always worth going back to them. He says, Graheshu Kuta Dharmeshu Dukkha Tantreshu Atandritaha Kurban Dukkha Pratikaram Sukhavan Manyate Grihi. While talking about the lives of married people, Grahastha, says in Graheshu Kuta Dharmeshu. Kuta Dharmeshu is falsehood. Actually, the so-called material life of happiness is filled with Kuta Dharmeshu, Dukkha Tantreshu Atandritaha, Kurban Dukkha Pratikaram Sukhavan Manyate. Whatever that happiness they experience, it actually is Sukhavan, Sukhavat. It appears like happiness, which is just a Pratikaram, Dukkha Pratikaram. It is just a counteraction of misery, and that is giving a feeling of happiness. But there is actually no happiness in this. That is why even in a householder life also, in a husband and wife, there is enviousness. That is why Griha Medhi. But to enter into that life of Grihastha, people aspire so much because there is so-called happiness in husband, wife, in house, and children. But there also there is no happiness actually. It is Sukha Ban Manyate Grihi. Attached householder remains in his family life, which is full of diplomacy and politics, always spreading miseries and controlled by acts of sense gratification. He acts just to counteract the reactions of all his miseries. And if he can successfully counteract such miseries, he thinks that he is happy. Urban Dukkha Pratikaram. Actually, these duties that we create, very obvious because man is a social animal. He has duties to his family, to his society. And in that duties that he creates for himself, for his family, for his society, he forgets the real duty of his life. Real duty of life in this human form of life is to go back to Krishna. And that just gets completely lost. So Graheshu Kuta Dharmeshu Dukkha Tantreshu Atandritaha Kurban Dukkha Pratikaram Sukhavan Manyate Grihi. However, it is not like Grihastha life is condemned, but the way we lived our life has to be changed. There is a very nice story in relation to this of Ramanujacharya. He had many brahmachari and sannyasi disciples, yet he was very affectionate to one Grihastha disciple. His name I am not able to remember. So when Ramanujacharya actually met him for the first time, that husband, he asked him, so who are you, how are you, and all. And then he explained who he is. And while in the conversation, he mentioned he's very attached to his wife. And he told that his wife appears to be very beautiful and he's attached to her. So when Ramanujacharya heard that, he smiled. And but he put his arm around him and he asked him to come and meet him. So by regular association with Ramanujacharya, he got transformed and he became a devotee. Whereas the brahmacharis and sannyasis used to think that, this grahastha, this person is actually so attached to his wife, how Ramanujacharya is bringing him close to him so much. Why is he giving him so much of mercy and kindness? One of the things which Ramanujacharya mentions is the simplicity in his heart when he openly said that I'm attached to my wife. And actually, a kind of Ramanujacharya saw that he's a deserving candidate to get this mercy. And then he started getting a lot of association of Ramanujacharya. And his brahmachari and sannyasi disciples became envious of this person. That why we are all brahmacharis, we are all sannyasis, and why a grihastha is getting so much of attention from Ramanujacharya. So then it so happened, so this is what, the mentality of envy doesn't go. It's a guru who is, given them initiation, and yet they're not able to accept or appreciate the mercy of guru on someone else. So to teach them a lesson, what Ramanujacharya told one of his disciples to do was, all these brahmacharis and sannyasis, they had their copins hanging in the outside somewhere, and he told in the night, you go and cut those copins. So one disciple went and cut those copins. So in the morning they got up and they saw my copin is gone, cut, and all. They started fighting amongst each other. You have done it. I have not done it. You have done it, and they started fighting. And then also what he told was one of the brahmacharis to go and steal from that grihastha's house. Everything, whatever is there in his house, you steal it. And when Ramanujacharya gave this instruction to his brahmachari disciple, the grihastha, like the husband, he was there with Ramanujacharya. So his wife was alone at home. So one of the brahmacharis goes to his house, and his wife. So okay, while mentioning this, Ramanujacharya say, he was referring to Manu Samhita, where it is mentioned that the wife should sleep after husband. The wife should eat after husband. At the same time, the wife should get up before husband. So her husband was not there, so she was waiting for her husband to come. But she saw that this disciple of Ramanujacharya has come, and he's not entering through the door. He has tried to enter in some other way. So she deliberately acted as if she is sleeping. And this brahmachari has been asked by Ramanujacharya to steal everything. He stole everything. And while leaving, he saw that the Mataji, she was having a lot of jewelries in her ears and bangles and all those things, and she was sleeping sideways. So she was pretending to sleep, and this brahmachari came and he took her earrings and bangles and other jewelries one side, and then she was thinking in her mind, oh, maybe in the mutt, maybe Ramanujacharya has some problems. They have run out of cash or something. Let him take everything. Let me not make any disturbance. And then in her mind, when she realized that she has taken half and the half is remaining, so she turned her side. When she turned her side, this fellow thought, oh, maybe she's awake, and he ran away without taking the other side of her jewelries. And after he has run away, her husband came, and then this lady is crying. Actually, I don't know. I wanted to give that, and I turned, and he left, and they are having a fight. The husband is telling, because you are a greedy person, you are trying to protect that for yourself. And this conversation was heard by those brahmacharis. They got to know the mentality, why Ramanujacharya is giving the mercy to even a grihastha. So actually, these are all designations: brahmachari, grihastha, whatever, sannyasi. They're really not something which is the only qualification to become advanced in spiritual life. Anybody can do that, but as I said, the whole important thing is simplicity. I want to talk about this another historic incident which happened, and there's a lot to learn in this. This is the historic incident of the sages meeting Sutta Goswami and asking these questions, which we are seeing now. This is the conversation between 80,000 plus sages and Sutta Goswami. Now, in the first chapter, we saw that the sages had asked 6 questions. And then Sutta Goswami answers each one of them. And then they asked further questions about Parikshit Maharaj, about Sukadeva Goswami, how did they meet, and all those things they have asked. Very interestingly, Munayo Sadhu Prashtoham. Actually, first of all, before beginning to answer even these questions, Sutta Goswami, he congratulates them and he says, wow, awesome. This kind of questions are really great. Munayo Sadhu Prashtoham Bhavadvir Loka Mangalam Yat Krita Krishna Samprashno Yenatma Suprasita. Because these are related to Krishna. Answers of this will satisfy everyone. Krishna Samprashno Yenatma Suprasita. Bhavadbhir Lokamangalam. And these questions are actually meant for all auspiciousness of everyone. Having said this, and having answered not only the 6 questions, the further questions which are asked by the sages, Sutta Goswami says, Upavaranitam etadvaha. This is in first canto, 18th chapter. Upavaranitam etadvaha punyam parikshitam maya. Vasudevo kathopetam akyanam yad aprachita. So I have answered. O sages, as you did ask me, now I have described almost everything regarding the narrations about Lord Krishna in connection with the history of the pious Maharaj Parikshit. So he said, now I am done. Bhagavatam is over. Granthana Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. नहीं हुआ नहीं अभी है. When he did that, interestingly, actually, what the sages told, they were not satisfied with that. This is the point of our today's class. Spiritual inquisitiveness. They didn't say, okay, very good. Now we are going our way. You go your way. No. They said something which is very, very wonderful. I couldn't put that in the slide, but it is there in the first canto, 18th chapter. The rishis, the sages said, Rishaya Uchaha Suta Jiva Sama Saumya Saswatir Visadam Yashaha Yastvam Samasi Krishnasya Martyanam Amritam Hinaha Suta Jiva Sama Saumya. O Suta Goswami, may all glories to you. You live for long life. All fame come to you. Saswatir Visadam Yasaha. Saswatir. Eternally your fame be there. Why? Yastvam Samasi Krishnasya Martyanam Amritam Hinaha. You please continue talking about Krishna, because Martyanam, for people who are in this material world, Amritam Hinaha. This is Amrita. This is nectar. How can you stop? The exact translation is, the good sages said, O grave Suta Goswami, may you live for many years and have eternal fame. For you are speaking very nicely about the activities of Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. This is just like a nectar for mortal beings like us. This is just like nectar for mortal beings like us. How important it is to have that inquisitiveness. Who can feed someone forcibly? Can I go and say someone, you learn this. You learn this Spanish. So I'll bring you, read. Will you read? Read. I need to have that desire. I need to have that inquisitiveness. They were not satisfied. Okay, hamara questions ho gaya. Done. Thank you. Bye-bye. No. They asked, may you live for long years and have eternal fame, for you are speaking very nicely about the activities of Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. This is just like nectar for mortal beings like us. They were actually elevated sages, but they are saying this is just like nectar for mortal beings like us. Then the sages say, they say actually that Tulayama Lavenapi. This is where I was going. Tulayama Lavenapi Naswargam na punarbhavam Bhagavat Sangi Sangasya Martyanam Kimutasya. Then they say a very beautiful verse. Ko nama tripyad rasavit kathayam mahattamaneikanta parayanasya nantam gunanam agunasya jagmur yogeshwara ye bhava padma mukhya. It's a very beautiful verse. There are three things that they are mentioning here. Ko nama tripyad rasavit. You are all Suta Goswami, you are a rasavit. You have taken the essence. In elsewhere, the Vaishnavas are called as saranga, who's taking the essence from the honeybee, which goes and takes the honey from the flower. Like that, the Vaishnavas are considered to be saranga, who takes the essence from everywhere. Ko nama tripyad rasavit, and you are a rasavit. You are actually expert in relishing that rasa. Ko nama tripyat. How can you be satisfied? You are a rasavit. How can you be satisfied in just telling this much? You are a rasavit. You should go on explaining more. Ko nama tripyat rasavit kathayam mahattamaikanta parayanasya. And you are also a mahattama, the greatest among the living beings, who takes exclusive pleasure in describing the activities of the Lord. The personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is the exclusive shelter of all great living entities, and his transcendental attributes cannot be measured by such masters of mystic powers. And the third one that they said is that even Lord Shiva and Brahma are not able to finish. How can you say I have done? Can anyone who is expert in relishing nectar ever be fully satiated by hearing topics about him? And in the purport, actually, Prabhupada clarifies that there are two things. One is Mahattamaikanta. Mahattamaikanta means who just doesn't feel tired of talking about Krishna. And there is the other word is Shushrusata. who's eager to hear. And when that combination comes, when somebody is not tired of talking about Krishna Katha and somebody is very eager to hear, it's like a potent father and mother who comes together. Then the child gets born. That's what Prabhupada says. So then Krishna gets born here. So that spiritual inquisitiveness to know from our spiritual master, to have that urge to know what is this, and how did this, like Prabhupada is saying, he was born as an ordinary maidservant son, yet he got transformed. How did this happen? What was that sincerity that Narada Muni was carrying that I need to have in my life to become, expert? Narada Muni met the Lord in that life itself. He could achieve that perfection. So to conclude our time, I want to this verse from Bhagavatam. This comes in the connection of Pururava and Urvashri. So Urvashri, who was heavenly society girl, when she heard from Narada Muni, she developed a desire to have association of Pururava, an earthly king. And she comes, and Pururava, being a devotee, got completely trapped, and many years passed by. There's a long story of this in Bhagavatam. When Pururava comes to his senses, when he realizes his position, he offers some wonderful prayers to the Lord and says to the world, that's called Ahilya Gita. In loud words, he goes out in naked and he says, oh, people in this material world, oh, thoughtful men, learn from my mistakes, which I did, and don't repeat that in your life. There are some 5 instructions, very important, very interesting things that he says. Actually, all these instructions are meant for people who are sleeping like us. We think maybe Pururava did something, and how is it? Actually, our lives are worse than their lives. They are all exalted personalities. Because of one small thing, he didn't have good association of devotees. He fell into this trap, but he came back to his senses, and when he came back, he's sharing this. So here is the verse which is saying, Yathopash-shrayamanasya bhagavantam vibhavasum sitam bhayam tamopeti sadhum samsevetas tatha. Even if for a little time, if somebody is engaging in devotional service, sadhum samsevetas tatha. So yatha and tatha is there. Yatha Yathopas shrayamanasya bhagavantam vibhavasum sitam bhayam tamopeti. There are 3 things which disappears in a person's life. What are those 3 things? Sitam bhayam tamopeti. Cold, fear and darkness are eradicated for one who has approached the sacrificial fire. Dullness, fear and ignorance are destroyed for one engaged in serving the devotees of the Lord. Yathopash-shrayamanasya bhagavantam vibhavasum sitam bhayam tamopeti sadhum samsevetas tatha. Cold, fear and darkness, like they get eradicated when somebody is approaching the sacrificial fire. Dullness, fear and ignorance are destroyed. So it's a very rare opportunity, very rare, that by some good fortune, which we have no idea how, we have come in touch with a pure devotee spiritual master. We have been initiated by them, some of us. And we have taken this vow to follow his instructions and to serve his mission. So when we do that sincerely, then in our life there will be no dullness. Today in the morning quote, we were reading how important it is to have the enthusiasm in life. The killer of enthusiasm is dullness, fear, and ignorance. So dullness, fear, and ignorance are destroyed for one engaged in serving the devotees of the Lord. Fear of what will happen to me in old age, what will happen to my children, what will happen to my husband, my daughters, sons, will all go away. But it is possible if we take shelter of the pure devotee spiritual master and be spiritually inquisitive. That's what Narada Muni and Vyasadeva we can see in their life. Vyasadeva is not stopping. That's what we can see in the lives of the sages of Naimisharanya and Sutta Goswami. That's what we can see even in the lives of Parikshit and Sukadev Goswami, when Sukadev Goswami narrated the entire Krishna's episode in one verse, entire thing in just one verse, he finished. Sorry. Then Parikshit immediately, said, "What are you doing? You spoke about so many things. I've been waiting for this. I may not have asked those questions, but you explain. Even if those questions which I've not asked, you please answer those questions on my behalf. You say, okay, these are also important things which you should know, and you explain." In our life, we should aspire to hear from exalted devotees. Any devotee. The aspiration not should be about discussing about some material mundane topics. We can talk, but it is about hearing from them, their realizations. That will help us in advancing spiritual life. That is what they can give, because that is what advancement in spiritual life means, in that conviction that one has in the heart about one's spiritual life, about one's spiritual position, about one's relationship with the Lord. We need to know, we need to ask, we need to hear, we need to have that inquisitiveness. That's what Vyasadeva is having here. That's what the sages of Naimisharanya had. That's what Parikshit Maharaj had. I'll stop here and see if you have any questions or comments.
Say that I should be simple. I don't know what to do. Comes in. What is it that I should do? Comes in.
Yeah, don't be complicated.
But there are so many subconscious forces at work that introduce complexity which I'm not aware of. So what are those levels that I should look at?
Yeah, simplicity means just being obedient to follow the instructions. That's it. Which is not natural to us because of our conditioning. We just don't want to do that. And as long as that is not there, it is very difficult to get the mercy. It doesn't come. How do we get that? Just the living entity's biggest enemy is his desire to be independent and to ichha dvesha and to be envious. That can only go if you are simple. But how do you go there? If you are able to overcome those two, then you will be able to come. No straight answer to that.
There's a prayer, slide, prayer slide is there in the
About simplicity. Achha. What is that? You remember?
self-importance. Since you mentioned the word of the way, to me it seemed like you're speaking about and the importance of also being able to conceive notions where we don't accept the instruction. So there are some slides in the social Japa that say I'm sacrificing my false bhavana and all my false such notions of self-importance and things like that. There's a prayer to eliminate that.
Is there a question? Okay, no questions. We'll stop here. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। हरे कृष्ण।